Guess what? They say the deadlift is the king of all lifts. It's brutal. It's simple. It's literally just picking something off the ground. But here's the twist. Humans have been obsessed with lifting heavy things since before we could even write. Long before barbells, chalk, and gym mirrors, our ancestors were already testing strength the same way. How big a rock can you lift before you die? This is Guess What? And today, we're hitching up the buried past of the deadlift. While no one can claim to have invented the deadlift, the motion is as old as gravity, ancient civilizations turned lifting heavy things into ritual, competition, and sometimes survival. The Egyptians carved scenes of laborers hoisting massive stones with precise hip hinge form. Their monuments weren't just architecture, they were endurance records in limestone. The Greeks took things further. Athletes in Olympia trained with halteres, small stone weights used for jumping, throwing, and strengthening the body. They believed lifting wasn't just physical, it shaped character. A strong body meant a disciplined mind, a philosophy that still echoes in gyms today. But it was the northern tribes, the Celts, the Gaels, and the Norse, who turned lifting into legend. In Iceland, men proved their worth by lifting stones named after villages and myths, none more famous than the Husafell stone, a 409-pound slab originally used as a gate weight. If you could lift and carry it around the churchyard, you earned the title full strong. Fail, and you were forever weak. In Scotland, manhood stones served a similar role. Villages had their own, granite boulders weighing anywhere from 200 to 600 pounds. You lifted it, you were a man. You failed, you were a boy. In some fishing towns, only those who could lift the stone were allowed to work the boats. Imagine your job interview being, lift that or starve. The ancient world didn't need trophies. Strength was the prize. And that right there? That's the original job interview deadlift. Fast forward to the 1800s, the age of iron and ego. The Industrial Revolution didn't just reshape cities, it reshaped strength. Iron became cheap, machines multiplied, and humans started wondering, if we can build steam engines, how much can we lift? Enter the strongmen: Hermann Gerner, Louis Cyr, Eugen Sandow, George Hackenschmidt, circus heroes who blurred the line between athlete and showman. They'd lift anvils, barrels, wagons, even people. They performed in theaters, circuses, and music halls, flexing before roaring crowds. Their goal wasn't just to be strong, it was to look strong. Sandow, in particular, became the first fitness influencer, sculpted like a Greek statue and adored like a celebrity. But the deadlift's modern journey truly began with a Boston physician named Dr. George Barker Winship. In the 1850s, Winship invented the health lift, a contraption of chains and iron blocks meant to invigorate the organs and strengthen the back. Participants stood inside the frame and lifted the weighted bar using partial range, a proto-deadlift. Victorians lined up in bowler hats to test their vital energy. It was half science, half sideshow. Winship even hosted exhibitions where men competed to see who could raise the heaviest weight while remaining dignified. And though the health lift faded into history, it planted the seed: strength as spectacle. From there, lifting left the sideshow and entered the gym. Well, what passed for a gym in 1880? Sawdust floors, iron bells, and the faint smell of whale oil and regret. As the 20th century dawned, steel replaced stone. Adjustable barbells were invented in Germany, and suddenly, strength could be measured, standardized, and compared. But here's the funny thing. At first, nobody cared about the deadlift. In Olympic weightlifting, the spotlight went to the snatch and clean and jerk, explosive lifts that looked heroic under bright lights. The deadlift, by contrast, looked simple. You just pick it up. No flair, no flight, just grind. Then, in the 1940s and 50s, a quiet revolution began in basements and barns across America: powerlifting. This new sport focused on three primal movements: the squat, bench press, and deadlift. Strength for its own sake. No style points, no applause, just raw numbers. One of the earliest legends was Bob Peoples, a Tennessee farmer who deadlifted over 700 pounds using a homemade barbell built from car parts. He trained in his barn, surrounded by farm tools and determination. No belt, no coach, no hype, just the will to pull. His motto was simple: lift it or don't. It's still the deadlifter's creed. While powerlifting was busy standardizing strength, another movement was going in the opposite direction. In 1977, strength returned to spectacle with the birth of World's Strongest Man, a competition that asked a much simpler, much meaner question. Not how much can you lift, but what can you lift? Strongman didn't care about perfect bars or identical plates. It cared about chaos. Cars replaced barbells. Frames replaced platforms. Grip stopped being an accessory and became a punishment. And with that shift came something new: deadlift variations, not for convenience, but for cruelty. Athletes pulled axle bars, thick, unforgiving steel that refused to spin. They lifted frames that tried to fold them in half. They deadlifted cars, wagons, and platforms stacked with impossible weight. Sometimes from the floor, sometimes from blocks, sometimes from heights that dared your spine to argue. The deadlift stopped being one lift. It became a category. And standing at the center of this new iron chaos was a man who understood it better than anyone: Jon Paul Sigmarsson, four-time world's strongest man. Explosive, charismatic, loud enough to scare the bar into moving. He once said, "There is no reason to be alive if you can't do deadlift." Was it philosophy? Or just Iceland? Either way, it captured the spirit of strongman perfectly. Because in this new era, the deadlift wasn't about elegance or efficiency. It was about dominance over whatever object dared to sit on the ground. Strongman didn't standardize the deadlift. It weaponized it. And once strength became entertainment, once the cameras rolled and the crowds gathered, there was no going back. The age of monsters was next. Fast forward to the modern era, where strength left the barn and entered the arena. In 2016, Eddie Hall did something no human had ever done before. He deadlifted 500 kilograms, 1,102 pounds, at Giants Live's Europe's Strongest Man, becoming the first person to break the half-ton barrier. The bar flexed like it might snap. His nose bled. He blacked out on the platform. His body briefly forgot how organs work. But he stood up with it. And just like that, a line was crossed. For decades, lifters believed the half-ton deadlift was impossible, a hard biological ceiling. Eddie didn't just break it, he dragged it screaming into the modern age. Since then, it has inspired lifters like Rauno Heinla, Ivan Makarov, and Graham Hicks to attempt to continue pushing numbers once thought impossible. But none were able to come close. For a moment, it looked like the peak had been reached. Then came Hafthor Julius Bjornsson. On May 2, 2020, at the height of the COVID lockdowns, the Icelandic strongman pulled 501 kilograms, 1 kilogram more than Eddie, becoming the first human to ever cross that number. But there was a catch. It wasn't done on a traditional competition stage. Thanks to government COVID lockdowns, there was no roaring crowd, no live arena, just a controlled environment, sanctioned officials watching remotely, calibrated plates, and cameras rolling. And that's when the internet did what it does best. Some fans called it a world record. Others said it didn't count under classic competition rules. And for years, that debate just lived online. Forums argued, comment sections burned, podcasts spiraled. The number stood, but the doubt lingered. Until Hafthor decided to remove it completely. In July 2023, he returned to a live platform and deadlifted 505 kilograms at the Eisenhart Black Deadlift Championship. No lockdowns, no asterisks. Then, just to make sure no one misunderstood the message, 2 months later, at the World Deadlift Championships in Birmingham, he pulled 510 kilograms, 1,124 pounds, on stage, under lights, in front of judges and a crowd. Debate over. Modern bars have whip. Plates are laser calibrated. Suits assist. Chalk formulas are engineered. And yet, for all the science, the lift itself hasn't changed. Grip. Rip. Hope your spine doesn't file a complaint. So why are we still obsessed with it? Because the deadlift is the purest test of strength. There's no trick, no momentum, no way to cheat gravity. It's the closest thing humans have to an honesty test. When you stand over a bar, there's nowhere to hide. Not behind technique, not behind excuses. It's just you and the weight. A silent conversation with physics. Every rep asks the same ancient question. Can you move what refuses to move? Psychologists who study strength sports say the deadlift taps into something primal, a symbolic act of overcoming resistance. It's about more than muscle. It's about control. Maybe that's why every civilization invented its own version. Because deep down, lifting isn't just about moving weight. It's about proving we're still stronger than the things that try to hold us down. That's why it's called the deadlift. The bar doesn't help you. It just lies there, lifeless, daring you to give it meaning. Today, the deadlift is more than an exercise. It's a culture. From competitive strongmen to high school athletes to late-night garage lifters, it's the universal handshake of strength. Social media made it bigger than ever. Every PR, every shaky lockout, every triumphant scream gets broadcast to millions. The barbell has become a symbol of resilience. Even the variations tell stories. From conventional, sumo, elephant bar, axle, Hummer tire, trap bar pulls, Romanian lifts, deficit, etc., etc. Each one a new dialect in the same ancient language. Pick it up. It's also a paradox, one of the simplest moves on earth, yet endlessly analyzed. People debate stances, grips, and spinal angles like philosophers arguing about meaning. But the essence never changes. We pick things up because it's what we've always done. From survival to self-improvement, the deadlift is the bridge between our primitive instincts and modern ambition. From manhood stones to monster PRs, from ancient fishermen to arena strongmen, the deadlift hasn't just tested our strength, it's tested our will. It's proof that progress starts with resistance, and that every time we lift something heavy, we remind the earth it doesn't own us just yet. That's today's episode of Guess What? If you enjoyed walking carefully through history with me, hit subscribe. Because next time, who knows what we'll uncover? Until then, stay curious. And remember, life's a lot like a deadlift. No one's going to pick it up for you.